A few months ago, following the tragedy within Parkland, Florida at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, CNN launched a town hall. This town hall involved the parents, students, and teachers who survived the massacre, as well as community members. And on the opposing side, you have the dream team of senators and congressmen for Parkland's district. Obviously, people who want to make reform to laws would have to be lawmakers to find some sort of conclusion or resolution to the problem. They just need to get their head in the game, obviously. However, following the Florida Dream Team, CNN introduced Dana Lausch, the spokesperson for the NRA, with booming applause from community members, meeting imitations of ghost applause with nothing but boos and frustration. Yes, throughout the entirety of the heated gun debate of America, three letters are heard the most often, and not CNN or FOX, but the NRA. Within attending any of the protests, such as the March for Our Lives, you can hear some pretty powerful language against the NRA, claiming that they have blood on their hands, that they're murdering children. I don't know about you, but I think a couple of letters doesn't make you a mass murderer. But the lobbying power of the NRA does. In order to find out what lobbying does, we decided to ask a few students as to what they think lobbying is, or if they know what it is. Okay, so today we're going to be interviewing people to see how much they know about lobbyists, so let's just go find random people to find a wild STEM student. I think we should go to the no code because it's lunch right now, so there's probably a whole bunch of wild children there. Bruce, do you have time to be part of an interview for my newscast? Okay. State your name and your grade.
Bruce Nicholson, 11th grade.
That's pretty darn cool. All right. Do you know what a lobbyist is?
Yes.
What do you think a lobbyist is?
I think a lobbyist is, actually I was lying, I don't really know. It's like a...
Who else should we bother? Would you like to take part in my newscast project?
What do I have to do?
You just have to answer a few questions about lobbyism.
What is that? It's when you...
Okay, that's literally the first question. Do you know what a lobbyist is?
No, in fact, I do not.
It's like someone who's in like some sort of like government establishment, like Congress, for example, and they kind of they usually work for a company and they try to get their ideas influenced on government officials to make laws to favor the companies.
Okay, should we venture into the studio? All right, we're gonna venture into the studio. The audio quality is probably gonna be horrible. I'm thrilled. Okay, do you know what a lobbyist is?
It has something to do with Congress and getting stuff passed.
Do you know what a lobbyist is?
No.
A what?
Do you know what a lobbyist is?
Like the people that work the lobby at a hotel? No, I don't know.
No. Okay, so a lobbyist is essentially someone who is paid to advocate for certain people and certain groups who have paid them to advocate within Congress and governmental positions on like bills and proposals and stuff like that. Do you think something like that would have a huge effect on the United States?
I would think so, because people can just like write whatever they want.
That's an intense question.
Definitely, I think so.
Definitely.
Probably.
Probably.
Because they get to influence how the government's run.
I don't know if I would say greatly, but I'd definitely say it impacts it.
Can you think of any ways that this influence could possibly be used for good?
I think if we have individuals going out for like peaceful protests and standing up for what they believe in, that would probably have a great impact.
It's awesome. Yeah, I definitely think that could help, especially with people, like, obviously, like, the government right now is kind of, like, narrow-minded, and, like, with so many, like, other groups outside that are, like, looking for, like, some source of power within, like, what our government does, this would definitely be a great opportunity because, like, the groups could pay this person, and that could definitely, like, he could, you know, like, advocate for different viewpoints and create different bills, so, like, that would, like, apply and, like, help a lot of other people than just, like, what the government is thinking.
Any examples where lobbying could possibly be beneficial to the United States?
I mean, in certain cases, you know, because it can reflect the public interest, but it can definitely have some bad effects too, which isn't that great, you know.
Well, I mean, I think that it could be better because, like it all comes down to like perspective on like who you support and who you don't. So like if it's someone that you support, then it could be like better like advertisement for it. But if it's like something that you don't support, like a lot of controversial topics, then it could not be good.
From the definition of lobbyism that I gave to you, can you think of any examples of lobbyists that you've ever heard of?
God. I don't know. You wanna help me out on this one, Andrew?
Could you restate the definition of lobbyist?
I think like organizations, more like associations, like Planned Parenthood and things like that.
Kind of like the FCC.
No, that's part of the government. If I told you that one example of a public interest group that does lobby is PETA, would you think of any other examples?
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what PETA is?
I'm terribly out of it.
You don't even know what PETA is?
What is that?
There's a bunch of Raytheon has one, Lockheed has their own one. Let's see, who else has their own? ACLU has one, so a lot of organizations have lobby organizations for them.
The NRA. Yeah, that's the one that comes to mind, I think.
That's all there is to it. But what truly is lobbying? And why are all these gun reform activists calling out with the NRA with cardboards and speeches against their influence within Congress? And of course, now that a mass shooting has not made the front pages recently, it's the perfect time to discuss something in relation to guns and gun control. Now, before we can clap back intensely against the NRA, we must understand what the NRA is. Actually, before we run with our pitchforks in favor of gun policies, when they might be controlled by an outside source. Between Congress passed bills to limit mass shootings and the survivors speaking out, there is them. There is the National Rifle Association, who claim that they are the longest standing civil rights organization. It is unsurprising that no one debates this. After all, they are the National Rifle Association. It's actually more of the public interest group, or an industry lobbying group, rather than a civil rights organization. Now, public interest groups exist such as the NRA or PETA, if they still exist, is an organized group of citizens that makes policy-related appeals to the government. They usually have some sort of membership that would then present them with political and economical clout. An interest group is a type of advocacy or activism that usually has one or two goals: an attempt to shape policies and an attempt to gather information for elected officials. Now, in order to compare these two, use the example of plagiarism. When using the first goal to shape policies, this can include pressure placed on Congress in order to do what the group wants done. They assist within contributions and support for candidates that support their agenda. This kind of action from public interest groups happens within state and local letters. Yet, the ultimate ones with the ultimate amount of clout focus on the latter. When influencing policies, from Similarity report from Turnitin can range from 0 to 40%. The congressmen are still making the laws rather than the interest group, but since they use the word "the" 180 times, and so did a source from Cambridge University, they are unable to reach 0% similarity. Now, the usage of political clout in order to provide information for public officials will result with an 100% similarity report within the public interest group rights for the congressman. That's correct. The bill is written entirely by the public interest group. What's even worse is that the interest group took all information from the most reputable source possible, making their claims indisputable. Anyways, the public interest groups with the most amount of money are able to then have a great amount of control over Congress. This is serious political influence that should be taken seriously by the many advocates who are trying to focus on the progression of society rather than congressmen who can copy and paste from a public interest group. Now, in addition to all of these actions from public interest groups, we wind up on lobbying. Lobbying is another action that public interest groups such as the NRA can do. Now, the definition of lobbying is pretty broad as well. A citizen's right to speak freely, impact decisions, and petition the government. The rule almost speaks to citizens as a motivational speaker, ensuring that change can in fact happen, rather than an action done by the all-powerful PETA, another public interest group. And it's true, lobbying can just be marching and protesting, but it could additionally be big businesses who are registered with the government who can lobby on their behalf on Capitol Hill, which sounds dirtier than the knowledge commons after the sophomore-freshman lunch, especially since big companies in 2015 paid up to $476 million for lobbyists to then receive up to $11 billion in rebates. Now, all frustrating laws within the United States, we ask simply, why is this still a thing? Surely someone has tried to slow this. Well, of course, President Obama signed an executive order from restricting lobbyists from receiving government positions until the Affordable Care Act, when this Mr. President then used lobbyists to promote that very same act. Although he's looking for lobbying although he's using lobbying for what is known as for-benefit lobbying rather than for-profit lobbying. The hope within lobbying is that lobbying would give everyone an equal and open playing field for all of the competitors to constantly act and have a consistent movement of politics. But the opposing side argues that the wealthiest public groups are the ones with the louder voice. Similar to 6-year-olds playing soccer that their mom signed them up for against their will, rather than each person getting availability to play evenly with the ball, they all rush to the ball, having a fighting chance until Billy comes out, and he's the best player because he's 12 and can punch out Johnny with his $4 million monthly income.